What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel here from the GeekSpeakNation channel, and so we have something interesting here right now. We have an apology video from Projeckt Red. Very interesting. I didn't really expect this to happen. I expected them to release some sort of roadmap, but for them to have put out a video apparently addressing some of the issues going on with the game, the process of its development and what is to come, is very, very interesting. So there's a couple of things we want to get into. I haven't watched the video yet, but I have seen the roadmap that they released, and it basically seems like if you want to play the game on console, your best bet is to wait till basically the end of the year, like fall maybe is a good time to play. And if you want the completed version or the intended vision of what this game is actually supposed to be, you're gonna be waiting until 2022. If you're one of those people who are like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait until they have everything patched and all the content is in the game that they want in the game, yeah, 2022 I guess is gonna seem like the best time to play. I don't know. This has been an absolutely insane situation dealing with this game. I know a lot of people feel that it's not warranted, the dog pile that has happened on CD Projekt Red, and to a certain degree I would agree with you. I think a lot of other games have gotten away with much worse when it comes to the release state of their game, or the way that their game was released. But it's kind of like the same situation with Star Wars Battlefront 2, where with Battlefront 2, it wasn't the most egregious. It was egregious, but it wasn't the most egregious of all the loot box scandal EA video games. I mean, FIFA, my God, if you want to talk predatory, that's where you start. It wasn't the most egregious of all the loot box video games, but it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. It's not necessarily the fault of the straw, it's more so the integrity of the camel's back, which overall led to the snapping. And to me, it kind of feels like the same scenario with Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk 2077, terribly botched launch. Is it the worst, most most botched launch of all time? No, not at all whatsoever. Just look at Fallout 76. Like, Jesus. Look at 76. In comparison, it's not as bad as other games have been, but it's really bad. The point of it is that it's come in a succession of other games that have come out divisive, or other games that have come out as, the best way of describing it is just not up to par, not up to quality, having a just faulty launch. And so because of that, it's just the next game on the chopping block that kind of broke the camel's back. So that's just kind of where it stands with the game. I understand why people are kind of upset that it feels like it's being dogpiled on, but at the same time, it doesn't mean they didn't deserve their lashes that they're getting right now. And on top of that, I mean, yeah, you can't help but be investigated when the government, when you got $7 million from them to help make your game, but it didn't come out the way that you said it was coming out. So regardless, I want to check out this video and then just see exactly what they say as the reason for why the game released in the state that it did. So let's get into it.
Hey everyone, my name is Marcin Iwiński and I'm the co-founder of CDPR. When I started CDPR 25 years ago, one of its founding principles was honest and direct communication with gamers. When CDPR Red, the game development part of CDPR was born, it added something important to that principle, the ambition to make the best games in the world. It became our mission and something that guided us up until now. Based on that legacy of genuine and honest communication, you've trusted us and pre-ordered our game. And despite good reviews on PC, the console version of Cyberpunk 2077 did not meet the quality standard we wanted it to meet. I and the entire leadership team are deeply sorry for this, and this video is me publicly owning up to that. Please don't fault any of our teams for what happened. They all are incredibly talented and hardworking. Myself and the board are the final decision makers, and it was our call to release the game. Although, believe me, we never ever intended for anything like this to happen. I assure you that we'll do our best to regain your trust. Now I'd like to tell you how the situation looked like from the inside. Cyberpunk 2077
yeah.
is huge in scope. And I'm not only talking about quests or things you see at first glance. I'm talking about a multitude of custom objects, interacting systems, and mechanics. In the game, everything is not stretched out over flat terrain where we can make things less taxing hardware-wise, but condensed in one big city and in a relatively loading-free environment. On its own, this is a challenge, but we made it even more difficult for ourselves by wanting to make the game look epic on PCs and then adjusting it to consoles, especially old gens. That was our core assumption, and things did not look super difficult at first. We knew the hardware gap, yes, but ultimately, I think that time has proven that we've underestimated the task. To give a concrete example, and the main culprit, we had to constantly improve our in-game streaming system for all-gen consoles. Streaming is responsible for feeding the engine with what you see
that
on
makes
screen,
sense.
as well as the game mechanics. And since the city is so packed and the disk bandwidth of all gens is what it is, it constantly challenged us. Every change and improvement needed to be tested, and as it turned out, our testing did not show a big part of the issues you experience while playing the game. As we got closer to the final release, we saw significant improvements each and every day. We really believed we would deliver in the final Day Zero update. Now let's talk about the review process. We started sending our PC review keys in the first days of December. On launch day, December 10th, we hit the ground running with a really good start on PC. While not perfect, it's a version of Cyberpunk we are very proud of. At the same time, we're fighting for quality on all-gen consoles till the very last moment. And every extra day of us working on the Day Zero update brought visible improvement. This is why we started sending console review keys on the 8th of December, which was later than we originally planned. This all happened while working from home with all the challenges resulting from the COVID-related restrictions. A lot of the dynamics we normally take for granted got lost over video calls or email, and we took that hit too. Now I'd like to tell you about our plans for the future and present a path for Cyberpunk 2077 on consoles and PC. We have already released 3 hotfixes improving the game, but that's just the beginning. Our ultimate goal is to fix the bugs and crashes gamers are experiencing across platforms. Please expect bigger and smaller patches on a regular basis. The first update will be dropping within 10 days, and it will be followed by another, more significant one in the following weeks. We will, of course, continue to work on the game in future updates and improvements beyond that. Our big plans for supporting Cyberpunk in the long term did not change. As for the free DLCs, our initial plan was to deliver them just after the release, much like we did with The Witcher 2. We decided to focus on the most important fixes and updates first, and we'll be releasing the DLCs afterwards. Expect more information in the upcoming months. For those of you playing on next-gen consoles in back compatibility, you can still expect the free next-gen update for Xbox Series consoles and PlayStation 5 arriving in 2021. We are aiming at the second half of the year.
How does QA
I'd like to end this video by assuring you that we treat this entire situation very seriously and are working hard to make it right. The guiding principles of our company are still core to what we do. We still want to make amazing games and have an open communication with you, our players. For now, our immediate focus is to work hard on making sure you enjoy Cyberpunk 2077 regardless of platform. Beyond Cyberpunk, we have many plans for the future, which we'll share more about when we're ready. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.
No mention of PlayStation Store. That is probably a very big, long work in progress. I just don't, even with the excuse of COVID, I don't understand how you could say that this game was play tested on console and it was fine when you play tested it. I don't know. That doesn't. The point of play testing is that you constantly test for bugs, crashes, all that sorts of stuff that are easily replicatable to show, the habits of like, hey, this thing needs to be fixed because I can replicate it over and over again, like this crash, this bug, this exploit, yada, yada, yada. I mean, just in Digital Foundry's YouTube video where they did the base PlayStation 4 testing and all that sort of stuff, they literally just kept driving to the same street that's like up the street from V's apartment and the game kept dropping down to the same frame rate and kept crashing over and over again. I mean, the AI still does the same thing every time you commit a crime, where as soon as you commit a crime, it spawns police behind you. I don't understand how certain things like that make it past playtesting, even with the issue of communicating through video calls and emails. It's a very strange thing to kind of like, I wouldn't say throw your QA team under the bus, but it's just a little sus of a part of the excuse. I don't know. It's very strange that it's just how they kept running into these issues, or supposedly didn't run into these issues, or what have you, or kept reporting back that things would be fixed by the day zero. It's very strange. Very strange indeed. I really want to know what actually happened. Because I understand he tried to give us some insight, but really what came down to it to make everyone in that boardroom go, all right, let's do it. This is it. Yeah, we're going to release the game now. Very strange. Very strange. Because so many of the issues, they're easily replicatable. That's why I just don't understand. To me, there's no way you look at that situation and say, without knowing, to approve that. I don't know. Very fascinating. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening, and I know they're making a commitment to not crunching or anything like that, but I don't see how they're supposed to get out all this stuff and there's not going to be a form of crunch based off of the way that they already work. I mean, people have been working for almost 2 years, crunching for almost 2 years straight, so I don't see how it wouldn't continue in order to get the game up to quality of what they're trying to get to. And maybe in 6 months we'll see what their progress ends up being, and just having faith that they can get back on track. But CD Projekt Red, they just need it's not a talent issue, it's an issue of they need a better leader with better management skills. Because again, I just bring back the example of when they were at E3 however many years ago, when they announced the release date of the game and all that sort of stuff. I remember them being on the E3 floor doing interviews with people, and Adam Kaczynski, I think it was saying how, oh, well, you know, part of the team's internally conflicted. We're about half and half on the release date. Some of us think it's too soon. Some of us don't think we can make it. Others think we got this. So it's kind of conflicted. And it's like, I'd never heard a developer speak so openly and candidly about being unsure of making a release date. And that kind of trepidation continued all the way through the release of like, we don't really have a choice, but we're going forward with this release date. And it's like, there was always signs along the way that like, yeah, the whole entire team is not quite sure how this game's gonna turn out. Like, it's just not quite there. Like, it's not baked in the oven enough yet. So I don't know, man. I've been seeing the title go around that this is a heartfelt apology. I mean, kinda. It's nice that he's fessing up and taking part of the blame, because I mean, he is part of the executive team that at the end of the day made the green lighting decision. But at the same time, I think some of these excuses are just very strange, and they're kind of shying away from the overall core of the issue, which seems to be greed and negligence, which is at the heart of it. So I don't know. I think after this, some serious management stuff needs to happen, and some team members need to get rearranged, or some new people need to be brought in to streamline the process and properly communicate between other departments to make sure their goals are actually attainable for themselves. Like, I still haven't brought myself to finish Cyberpunk 2077 on PC, but it's not a bad game at all whatsoever. But yeah, like I said, it's not an issue of talent. It's an issue of the people that chose to greenlight a project that wasn't ready and forcing workers to crunch to a deadline and watch all of their work go up in flames, relatively speaking, for the most part. As much as they, you know, you can sit there and be happy about, you know, part of the release, at the end of the day, there's still a large portion of the people who wanted to play the game who didn't, you know, or at least didn't get the way that you gamed the way that you wanted it to. And it was interesting him bringing up the streaming technology, because I mean, yeah, that is important, because essentially with video games, there's just too much information for a console to process when you're looking at an open world game. So essentially what ends up happening is it takes its tunnel vision, and the games and kind of having like this like predictive algorithm to a certain degree of trying to predict everything the player needs to see, and then literally just dumping out and forgetting, or just releasing all the memory of all the stuff that the person doesn't need to see, textures that don't need to load in, parts of the game world that doesn't need to load in. And that's where the streaming aspect comes in, because it'd be literally just too much for a console to try to process all the information of bringing all the details to life in front of you for an open world. And so, yeah, if their whole entire basis of their streaming system wasn't working internally, and they kept having to go to the drawing board to revamp that, I mean, it just feels like that didn't bode well from the beginning on their work process. Especially since, you know, granted, every game, nearly every single game, is made PC first, because obviously video games are made on PCs, but it just seems like their logic of working backwards just wasn't quite hitting the mark where it needed to. And it didn't seem like for the consoles they were making specific alterations that would help feed the flow of information, as compared to literally just, like he said, taking and trying to just crank down the notch, crank down the tab on how intensive, hardware intensive Cyberpunk 2077 actually is. So yeah, I don't know, let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Maybe I'm part of the group that's being way too harsh on CD Projekt Red on this game. Personally, I don't think I am. I think frankly, relatively speaking, they've got it pretty easy, especially when you consider just all the stuff that they lied about. Like, I mean, genuinely lying to not only the consumers, but shareholders and investors, and saying that the game plays surprisingly well on consoles, and it didn't. And I'm just tired of hearing all the excuses of trying to defend the way this game came out, when there's so many other examples of great games that run perfectly fine and are open world games on there, and constantly hearing the excuse of like, oh, how intensive the game world is. And I'm playing it on PC, and there's certain elements that are game breaking or groundbreaking, are mostly things that have to do with the lighting engine and the way that the world is designed. But I don't know, I just feel like there are easier caveats to being able to make this game functional at the bare minimum on consoles. But hey, you know, what can you do when you make a game that's announced before even the last gen versions of consoles were even announced? So it'd be like that sometimes, it really do. But with that being said, yeah, let me know what you think about all this in the comment sections down below, and also while you're down there, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new here, subscribe to become part of the GeekSpeakNation channel, and if you do, set that bell icon to all, so you always get notified of when I post a new video. And also, guess what? I stream on Twitch. That's where I spend most of my time lately, because YouTube's algorithm has decided to dump me like a bad boyfriend. So twitch.tv/GeekSpeakGaming is definitely the place where you can find this face almost every single day. I am normally almost all the time over there streaming on Twitch daily, just because that is more fun for me right now, to be honest. Because, you know, I put out these videos, but I mean, YouTube's algorithm does not like them. So there's nothing I can do about that. And yeah, that's where I'm normally at, twitch.tv/GeekSpeakGaming. I think that's it. I'm tired of talking about Cyberpunk. One day I'm going to finish the game, but it's probably not going to be anytime soon. There's so many other things to actually play that's more worth my time right now. But that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm Daniel, and don't forget to get geeky.